Welcome to the Segmenting and Qualifying Your Leads with HubSpot webinar. My name is Mandy Thompson. I am going to be one of your hosts today, and I will introduce your real host because I'm just going to kind of be moving things along. But Stepan and Tian are going to be sharing all of the good information with us. So very excited to have all of you here today. Very excited to go through all this information. Welcome to everyone. I would love to hear from some of you where you are dialing in from today. So I'd love to see that in the chat where y'all are at. But yeah, I'm going to do quick intros, then we're going to jump right in. So as I mentioned, I'm Mandy Thompson. I am one of the co-founders at Digital Reach. So I work a lot with these two fine gentlemen on helping our HubSpot customers and those in the ecosystem better utilize HubSpot to reach their organizational goals. So I'm going to do quick intros here, and then we're going to jump in. Look at all these fun, we've got people in Medellin, Barcelona. We've got Longmont, Colorado. Hopefully it's not too snowy for you over there. Yeah, 18 inches of fresh powder. Love it. Hopefully we've got some people who snowboard and ski who are going to be enjoying that this weekend or even today, whatever you're doing. See Maryland over there. Greg used to live in Baltimore. So shout out to you there. Louisiana. Love it. All right. So Stefan, you guys are lucky today. You've got two amazing hosts, speakers, trainers who are HubSpot solutions consultants here at Digital Reach. So those are the people who are in charge of leading our clients from start to finish through their onboarding, implementation, customization, all of that fun stuff. So both of these guys are HubSpot certified trainers. So you're getting the absolute best. Stepan has been with Digital Reach for over 2.5 years. He's been working in HubSpot for about 7+. Some of you might know him from the live cohort training for HubSpot super admins. So you guys are getting one of the kings of HubSpot training here. He runs those live cohorts. If you haven't taken one, I highly recommend it. And then Stepan is based in Croatia. All right. And then we have Tian. Tian, like I mentioned, is a HubSpot solutions consultant. He's a superstar working with our clients through super complex, onboardings and builds. And both of these guys have been working with people to understand the lead object and have already helped several of our clients to transition over to using the lead object, the prospecting workspace, and all of the really cool new stuff that comes with the new and improved Sales Hub. So really exciting stuff here today. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what I want to go ahead and do is, I'm going to talk to you in a minute about what we're going to be covering here today. But I want to do a really quick tech check. So let us know in the chat here if you have ever attended a webinar and Demio before. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and tell you how it works. All right. So obviously this is a cool platform, right? Like looks really beautiful. So we have our chat, which a lot of you have already been in. So that's really awesome. Something I'm going to show you in the chat is this. What we'll do if you have a question to make it more visible to myself and to our other hosts is that I can hover this. I'm going to do, let's see, we'll take Rachel's last message. If I click the question mark button here, y'all probably see now that we have Rachel's comment about getting the squall right over her house. That is now up and prominent. So that will make your questions, like I said, a little bit more prominent. All right. The other thing is we have polls. So if you look on the right-hand side, there are polls. We are going to be asking you lots of questions because we want to know exactly what you're using in HubSpot and how we're using it. So as we're going through this, we can tailor what we're saying to be more relevant and more important and more useful to you. All right. Then next to polls, you're going to see handouts. We are going to have some handouts. So when we call out, hey, we have a downloadable, you can go over there and download it. Last thing is when we have information to share that has links, okay? So that's going to pop up in the bottom left-hand corner. So that's just some stuff to know. The last thing is this, is that if you have questions and you want to come on stage, like talk to us and ask your questions at the end when we have time for Q&A, please know, like I just mentioned, we can invite you on stage. If we invite you on stage, your camera and your microphone are going to be on. So if you don't want your camera on, be aware of that and turn that off. And if you do, we would love to see your face this morning. All right. So with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and talk about what it is that we are going to do today and what it is that we're going to be learning. Okay. So the big thing that we're going to be talking about today really is the new Sales Hub, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cover high level and then we're going to zoom in. All right. So what's going on and what's changed? What are the new tools? Why are they useful to you? How do you actually set those things up? And then we're going to go into, okay, we understand what the prospecting workspace is. Cool. We want to use it. We understand what the lead object is. Awesome. We want to use it. Okay. now what do we do, right? Now, how do we get in there and actually, and actually use it? And so Tian's going to walk you through how to create a plan on a schematic and then move that plan into HubSpot. So you're going to get lots of actionable insights and information today. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump over to the next slide. All right. And we had our first poll here. So some of you saw that. You got to play with the poll tool there. So we see here that we have about 75% of you that answered have not used the lead object before. That is great to know. We're going to go ahead and jump into all of that. So don't worry at all. And we actually have our next poll. We want to know what Sales Hub features you're currently using, because obviously there are lots of Sales Hub features. So we'd love to see your answers there. But what I want to jump into right now, right? So let's talk about what's changed. Why did it need to change? Like, why did the Sales Hub need new features and different features? And what problems do these new features solve? Like, why do we care about the lead object and the prospecting workspace? So, Stefan, could you tell me a little bit about the new Sales Hub? Like, what does it offer now that it didn't offer before the update that rolled out at Inbound?
Yeah, sure, Mandy. So first off, hello to everyone. It's so nice to see that you're calling all around the world. And great question. So I would just say that HubSpot decided to revamp the Sales Hub because the times have changed. So by adding a new prospecting workspace and unifying the lead management, upgrading sales sequences and simplifying the lead handoffs, because those are the most common problems, and tying everything to reporting, better deal management, and also including AI. So providing an ability to use AI in forecasting so people can forecast intelligently. The Sales Hub now empowers your sales teams to prospect smarter, not harder, and deliver the world-class buyer experience. And that also helps your sales managers to make better decisions. So I would summarize it in that way.
Yeah, all of those features, especially the AI forecasting. I know we're not going to go through that today, but if y'all are interested in learning more about AI forecasting, do let us know. We would happily put together a webinar just on that because it really adds a lot to HubSpot's forecasting tool. But I do think that while HubSpot had great task management already, these changes, for those of you who haven't worked in the prospecting workspace yet, they really bring everything together. They make it nice and clean. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Why do you think it is that the Sales Hub needed changes? Like, what were the problems that HubSpot was looking to solve when it rolled out these new features in the Sales Hub, Stefan?
Yeah, I was also thinking why this sudden change, but we were at the Inbound and I was thinking more about it. And I would say that in the last couple of 2 decades, the sales team have relied on a playbook that's more to drive growth, meaning more reps, more software, more tech stack, more costs, and more activities. However, times changed, so have the buyers. We know budgets are tightening, deals take longer to close, and prospects are becoming more and more difficult to reach. And also with an AI entering the overall picture, the gap between the buyers and the sellers is now set to widen even more. So HubSpot decided, okay, let's take all of these problems and let's incorporate this into our Sales Hub. So that is what will allow for the sellers to do intelligently their decisions and prospect smarter. And that is the name here.
Yeah, you're right. Because now for those of you who haven't used the lead object prospecting workspace, it really allows you to not only see as a sales rep, right? Like, who do I need to work with, but who should I be focusing on right now? Understanding out of my list of prospects I'm working with, where is everybody at in their lead journey, right? Because if we think about it, HubSpot before this change was very deal focused in the Sales Hub, right? And that's great. We need to transact. We need to close deals. We need to track revenue. We need to track goals, obviously. But what about those folks who are in charge of getting us to the point where we have a deal to put in the pipeline in the first place, right? And that's what these changes really aimed to solve, was that, HubSpot, while it offered more than, let's say, Salesforce did when it came to prospecting, it certainly wasn't contending with Outreach, SalesLoft, and Apollo. And now it is, especially with that Clearbit data coming in. And another thing I love about the prospecting workspace, for those of you who might not be in a traditional for-profit business, is that we're even seeing uses in the nonprofit space. We're applying this for teams that are working for political action funds that are out there canvassing and dialing and working to get in touch with people. So obviously we have the standard usage of, hey, I'm going after this, either this type of prospect or these types of target accounts, and I need to go, pursue these job titles within that, right? Like, obviously it works for those things, but I think it also really does a great job going beyond. So what I'd love to, before I ask Stepan his next question, I have another poll here that's Martin, who is our marketing operations lead. He's back here running all these polls for us. So thank you over there to Martin. But we have another poll here, which we'd like to know, of these problems we're talking about, which problems has your sales team faced? And we have another poll. What are the biggest improvements that you're focusing on this year for your sales team, right? Okay, so Stepan, what I want to know though specifically is, how are we solving these issues with this new sales hub, right? Like everything we talked about that folks are facing, disorganized tasks, not knowing how to prioritize, kind of having a disjointed experience, having to hop here, there, and everywhere to get everything done as a sales rep. How has those problems been addressed by HubSpot's updates?
Yeah, so the updates, just adding the prospecting workspace and the leads object, incorporating into the current object, allows reps to never lose sight of their leads, meaning it allows surfacing CRM data of upcoming meeting participants. It displays the relevant context in task queues. It also suggests the next best activity the rep should take using the AI, and ensures your salespeople are always have the most relevant context at their fingertips. So we are shortening the time to close a deal. We are shortening the gap that the generative AI is now doing, and all ties into what is the next best step for a rep.
Yep, exactly, right? We want to put in front of our reps, what should you be doing right now, right? And we want to make that as easy as possible. We don't want to exhaust them with decisions and context switching, because we want them to be using all of their mental energy to have a great conversation with our prospects, to really be attentive and listen, to be able to identify where they need to go with the conversation. All right. So we don't want them burning that energy on where are my tasks and who should I be focusing on right now, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks like here, a lot of these problems, when I look at this poll, we're all kind of looking at a lot of, majority of people answered all of the above, right? So disorganized tasks and activities, that one was very common, but it looks like all of us are seeing tracking leads in their current status, prioritizing activities and leads. We're all working on that. And then when we look at what folks are looking to improve on this year, right? Productivity was the number one answer aside from all of the above. And then we also have our handoffs. The new lead object really helps with that, prioritization and forecasting. So that's great. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide so that we can get through this next bit of information and then jump right in to the most important stuff, which is, how do we actually apply all of this, right? Okay. So last question I have for you, Stepan, before we start jumping into some demos, just to keep building this context of like, are we all talking about the same thing, right? Are we all dealing with the same problem? So if you take a look at this slide and what it was like that HubSpot was looking to solve, right? Prospecting smarter, managing deals, analyzing and coaching, right? And of course, in an hour, right, 45 minutes, we don't have time to go through all of this, but we want to put this picture up here. These are all of the things, right? We've got 9 different squares here with a whole bunch of bullet points in each. There's a lot for us to manage when we're managing our sales team and when we're managing them in a piece of software, right? And so all of this stuff, like when we talk about it, yeah, prospecting, managing deals, giving feedback, but there's a lot of little components that go into that, right? So let's try to narrow it down, Stepan. What do you think? And I know we've already talked about this a little bit, but like, you meet with so many sales teams and so many people who are using HubSpot, and you teach so many people. What are the biggest themes of the problems that you see folks having in sales that we need to solve with these new tools?
Yeah, so the biggest problems, I would say, I can outline probably a lot, but I would say 3. So I would say personalization, how to research an account, so they know why somebody is an MQL, what has happened, so they are now a marketing qualified lead or sales qualified lead they need to work for. Also, I would say they want to use AI, but they are scared to use AI to write the prospecting emails, to research the tool, and now HubSpot also allows that. And probably the biggest problem, and we see it here in the poll, is the marketing to sales alignment. So it's a common problem we are seeing and solving for most of our customers. And a good customer relationship management, so HubSpot as a CRM and system, is a central part of aligning those sales and marketing teams. And by using the new Sales Hub, this is what it's in its core. So I would say those are the three main problems.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it really well. So we're going to go ahead and shift here, and we're going to jump in to talking a little bit about how exactly we're solving these things. And I see, Ethan, thank you for your question. We're definitely going to get to that later. So Stefan and Tian, that will be one you can tackle later. So definitely one to start thinking about, but awesome specific question. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. And let's talk a little bit about, as we move into, right, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the Prospecting Workspace, because it's awesome. So we have another poll for you guys. I want to know if you're currently using a prospecting tool, and if so, which one are you using? Okay. So if you'd go ahead and answer that poll, that'd be really helpful. But, when we think about it, prospecting, why does it matter to organizations? When you think about it, prospecting is a little bit marketing, a little bit sales. When we're prospecting, we don't have somebody on the hook yet and committed to going through a buying process with us, right? So that's the same contact that marketing is working with as well, right? It's somebody who hasn't, or at least our demand generation marketing is working with people who have not yet committed to being in a sales process with us, right? So just like marketing has to track all of our attribution, our touch points, our retargeting audiences, our nurture, our content downloads, and how those are working, we should be looking at prospecting with the same lens, right? Like what is each step of this source, engage, qualify? What's happening in each of those steps? What's working and not working in each of those steps? So it's not just about having an outbound sales motion. This is about, it's about helping marketing get you to the point where you are opening deals. Okay. So if you have up-to-date and accurate information, you make better marketing decisions. Well, if you have up-to-date and accurate information, you make better prospecting decisions. If you have accessible marketing data and tools, you're going to make better choices and you're going to be able to execute better. The same goes for prospecting, right? So we need to view prospecting through this lens of, all of our processes. We want to have lots of data, be making data-driven decisions, but prospecting can sometimes get left out. So I see here, we have one person already using the Prospecting Workspace. Awesome for you. Later, I would love to hear, if you want to put it in the chat, any of your, thoughts, feedback, what your experience has been. That's great. I see that we have lots of folks not using a prospecting tool right now. That is not uncommon at all. And then we have one person using Apollo. So the really good news for all of you here who are looking at the lead object and the Prospecting Workspace, you are in the right place, right? Because HubSpot, as a lot of you probably know, acquired Clearbit towards the end of the year last year, which means we are going to see Clearbit data. This means researching accounts, researching prospects, pulling in data enrichment right away so that you can go ahead and reach out to those people, having leads suggested to you based on who you're already working with or deals that have closed. All of that's going to be available in HubSpot because, right, for the person who answered Apollo, the one thing that the Prospecting Workspace doesn't have yet natively, right? Of course, you can get all of that through Zoom Info, right? Or other tools. You can set up automated workflows to push those prospects in. But wouldn't it be nice to have it right inside of your Prospecting Workspace? HubSpot knows how nice that will be as well. They're in a big hurry to get that live in there. And for any of you who are interested, we are part of a private alpha for this workspace. We've been working closely with the team who is developing the features with Clearbit inside of the workspace. So if any of you are interested in being a part of that alpha, please go ahead and comment in there, and who you're with. Karen can go ahead and put you on a list, and we can talk to that team and see if you would qualify for that private alpha. Now, they want to get a variety of different industries and team sizes, so I can't promise that everybody will get into the alpha, but we will certainly throw your name in the hat and see if we can get you into that if you're interested in checking it out. Because of course, very fun. You'll get free credits for Clearbit while you're doing the alpha to be able to pull in account information into your CRM. So that's always fun. All right. Now, after all of this, talk through what are the problems we're all solving. We're on the same page here. We're all dealing with the same things based on what we're seeing in the poll. Now it's time to go to the next slide so that we can actually jump in and start taking a look at some of these features, right? We've talked about it a lot. Here's a pretty picture of this. It's very nice. So what I'd like to know, we have one quick poll here. I know we had 2 people who are using the Prospecting Workspace, but how many of you have even taken it for a test drive? How many of you have even looked at this thing and gone under your sales prospecting tab? Well, depending on if you have the new navigation, we won't go down that rabbit hole today. But if you have the old navigation for HubSpot, then you would find the Prospecting Workspace under sales. If you have the new navigation, I'm going to be honest, I haven't opted in yet. So maybe Stepan can tell you where you would find that. But Tian, let's go ahead. We're going to jump in here and we're going to get to a demo very quickly here. So tell me, what is the Prospecting Workspace and how does it work?
Hi, everyone. Tianya, it's nice to present with you and Stepan and Mandy. So basically, Mandy, in the past, when a salesperson went into HubSpot, to look at your sales and your leads, you have to go into different tabs every single time, right? And your tasks as well. So you'd have to go into contact, make a list, look at your lists, look at any properties that you've used to segment these contacts. Now, the Prospecting Workspace is one personalized workspace that allows your reps to see what their leads are and manage upcoming sales activities all in one place. I can quickly go in and show you a demonstration.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's jump right on into the demo. So, what I'd like to know is, what are the components, right? So you're going to jump over, you're going to demo this for us. So tell us a little bit about the components. Tell me about this summary tab. What does it have? How does it work? All that fun stuff.
Cool. So if you go to sales prospecting, you'll see that you have the summary tab that summarizes all your tasks, tasks that you have due today, overdue tasks, or the tasks that are due tomorrow, all your sequences that's relevant to your specific sales process, and your leads. You'll see in a second when I go into the leads object, we'll have a look at the different lead stages. But everything that I mentioned was earlier in the different tabs. For instance, you have your tasks and you had to go in contacts. Everything now is summarized in the Prospecting Workspace. You could go ahead and into leads and have a look at different types of leads as well. Yeah. Sorry.
Real quick question on the summary tab. If you could quickly, It looks like you can also move those things around, right? Like when you hover them, you've got those little bars on the side. So can you move all this so you can, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you can.
That's great. Okay, go ahead, continue. I just saw that. And of course, I like rearranging things. So I might put my leads at the top, but I guess to each their own, right?
Yeah. So if you look at the Prospecting Workspace, you'll get into leads. So in a sec, I'll get into the leads object as well. But basically, what the leads object is an extension of a contact object, and it adds a different dimension to between your marketing and sales and your opportunity qualification. So in here, if you go into the leads object, you can see there are different labels. In this instance, I'll demo in a while. The company is not relevant, but you can have leads for companies and for contacts. And it shows you the last activity that you had. It shows any next activity you will have. For instance, these two, I don't have any activity, but I can schedule to do task, an email task, call task. Also, if they are enrolled in sequences, it will come up there as well. There's also a few different features, but I believe I'll get to that in a bit. But that's a quick overview. Yeah.
On this lead one, so that label, like that it's a hot lead, are those did you make your own labels or do those come automatically when you turn it on?
So in my demonstration, I'll show you in a bit, but basically this is just a new property that you use in the leads object specifically to label it as either hot, warm, or cold. You can't customize that. You'll see it's completely different than other properties in HubSpot, whereas it has a nice image on as well. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, this is great. So when you look at this, you can see your leads. You can organize them, if they're hot leads, warm leads, cold leads. Like you said, if the company is the lead, you'll be able to see that. And then the stage, your last activity, next activity. I mean, this is a really great view just in this page alone. And then, of course, with those filters, you can play with sequence enrollment and target account. So this is like a more nuanced and prospecting specific version of the contact record page, right? Or the list of contact records, just with more things that are relevant to being a lead.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Sorry for all the questions. Go on.
No, that's all good. I'll move to the next slide and let's quickly discuss the leads object. Yeah, go ahead, Mandy.
Yeah, let's get into that. So we've talked about that Prospecting Workspace, and we're going to take a look at that a little bit more because, of course, y'all probably also saw that you have a tab with your feed, so you can see all the activity happening with your leads. You also have your schedule there. So if you want to see what you got going on, and that could be all your meetings, if you're time blocking for different types of activities like emailing, calling, etc., depending on how you manage your work, then of course you have all of that there too, which is super fun. So now that we've talked about all that, we're going to, like you said, move over to the lead, because can you use the Prospecting Workspace without using the lead object? Yes, you can. It does have tasks in there, and tasks can still be assigned to non-leads. However, makes it a lot more fun if you use the lead object, because the whole idea of this, right, is to bring all of this together for that prospecting phase of the sales process that's so important. So, how is the definition of a lead different in HubSpot compared to, like, as we're just getting into like what is a lead, because of course that can mean a lot of things, even within your organization, right? Like, when do you call somebody a lead? That's a definition that each organization has. But as far as like within the technology, what's the difference between a lead, if there is one, a lead in HubSpot and a lead in, say, Salesforce or another system?
Cool. So basically, leads is not a replacement for contact or standalone object. Whereas in Salesforce, leads are a different object when compared to contacts. In HubSpot, leads are an extension of a contact or company record. So with HubSpot leads, you can't access, modify, or create leads via the API. You can't integrate HubSpot leads with Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce CRM leads directly. There are ways to indirectly do that. You can't create a leads-based list for marketing emails. You can't create a leads without associating with a contact or a company, and you can't create custom lead properties or associations.
Okay. All right. So it's like, when we think about it, I guess to kind of zoom out on that, like Salesforce, for all of those who have used Salesforce, which is probably a lot of folks here, right? Like, you have these, when you bring people in, their leads, and then you convert them to a contact, but then you end up having a lead and a contact, right? And so that, can have, and then if you work a lead multiple times, then like, what do you do with it, right? So like with this extension with HubSpot, you just keep a single contact so you don't mess up those people records, let's call them. But then you can, put this extension on for a lead. And from what I understand, you could do it multiple times, right? So if you run through working with someone, let's say your sales process says, if we make no contact in 4 weeks, we stop prospecting and we pick them back up in 3 months. When you pick them back up in 3 months, you don't have, you can keep that same contact and you get all of that contact activity history, but then you make them a lead again and you can work through that process, because then you can analyze things like, on average, how many lead campaigns do we run before somebody becomes an opportunity, right? Like, is that kind of am I understanding that properly?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this is super exciting. And you brought it up a little bit. So Tian, talk to me a little bit more about associations and how those work.
So basically, it's associated either with a contact or company record, and it's many to one that are possible. And you can't create a standalone lead. It will always be associated to a contact or company. So it's an extension of your contact or company record. That's basically a quick summary of the associations thereof. You can also associate them to deals as well, if that's relevant towards your sales process. I think that pretty much summarizes the associations.
Yeah, that would give you some interesting insights as well then, right? Because if you start associating them to deals, then again, how many leads on average get associated to my deal, so that we can understand what our buying committees are looking like. So this is, in addition to making it more effective for your SDRs, BDRs, whoever's prospecting, it's also deepening the insights and analysis for us to understand what's happening in this buildup to getting to a deal, and to look at the deals that actually close. So that's really cool as well. All right. So we're going to, in just a second here, jump in and get to demoing the lead object, which is super exciting. But I've got a couple other quick questions. Number one is, where do you find leads? And then my second question is, what do people need to keep in mind when they start, are there any things we need to look out for when we start to use this object? So I guess first, where are they so people can find them? And then second, any pitfalls we need to keep an eye out for before we go and turn them on?
Yeah. So where you can find them, Tian already showed that they are in the Prospecting Workspace, but that is not all. When you are browsing or you're working from a contact record, you can also see on the right side a lead, meaning the sales reps that are transitioning from maybe your current sales process in HubSpot, they can always see if the lead is opened on that contact. So what's happening, how, in what stage they are. So that's something that we will demo, but this is very important. So like, it's not that you just need to turn it on and everybody needs to need to know what the lead is. So like, it also allows you to see the view while you're transitioning your reps and improving your sales processes. And the second question is what to keep in mind when starting to use a lead object. So I would say there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. So get your lifecycle stages and pipelines in order first, so you can transition smoothly from a lead to a deal. And also decide if they will be created when somebody's an MQL or SQL, and that depends on your process. Enforce activity tracking with your reps, so with call outcomes and call types. But also another thing to keep in mind is if you're using Salesforce, they're not the same as using Salesforce. They are not replacing your contact for companies. They are a layer on top, similar to deals or tickets. They're also not replacement for your lifecycle stages. And probably in the distant future, they can replace lead statuses to help you understand better your sales process. But as you know, if you have a smooth sales process right now, maybe they don't need to replace your lead status. So I would say those are the quick things to keep in mind.
Okay. No, that's really helpful, Stefan, because I do think, while it's exciting, we have this amazing, prospecting workspace. We have these new lead objects. That's great. We do want to be mindful, right? Because like I said, when you turn on the lead object, there are some things that will start automatically happening because HubSpot wants to make this very integrated and easy to use, which is awesome. But if you turn it on and you don't realize that you're going to convert your lifecycle stages or conflict with the lead statuses that you already have, or, there's also, we'll see this in just a second, that it can be set up to where it forces you to create a deal when you reach the stage of connecting with that lead and having them turn into an SQL. So important things to take a look at, which we're going to do in just a second. So Tian, if you would go ahead and move us over to the next slide, we have another poll for you guys. I would like to know, just kind of temp check, we're a little over halfway through here. Are you more or less excited about the lead object than when this webinar started? So hopefully the answer is yes, but you can tell us if it's no. So still thinking about it, that's totally fair. Totally fair. All right. So, let's talk about, like, as we're working through this, right, with the lead object in the workspace, how is this consolidated view different from the old workspace, and what does it help reps with? Like, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, sure. So it gives reps the ability to see all active prospects in a singular unified space. And that was not the case in the old task workspace. So you can see all the tasks. Somebody could manage those tasks. You needed to give them, set permission sets, who can decide on the task, what needs to happen, what is the next activity. Now, managing the lead object in the prospecting workspace, the only thing you need to decide is when those leads come into your CRM, how they will get routed, who will be a contact owner. Meaning, if they have a contact owner, the reps that's using the prospecting workspace will immediately pull those leads in that prospecting workspace. If a contact owner changes, another reps gets those leads and they can continue. So that also allows for example, you're making progress and somebody just like left the company, or they cannot, like, there's some other issue. You just change the contact owner. They don't need to go into spreadsheet. They don't need to ask their colleagues what is your notes. Everything stays on a contact associated in a lead object, and it's just who is the owner, who is managing, who is pushing that buyer journey to open up, to qualify them as an opportunity and push them into the deal pipe.
Okay, awesome. That is fantastic. So yeah, it is so much more consolidated when you're actually working a lead. It's just really nice. Now, are we going to see that in a couple minutes, like what that looks like in that consolidated view? Okay, awesome. So then let's talk about like the lead stages. How does that work? Is it a pipeline? Does it interact with the sales pipeline? Like what are these lead stages and how do they function?
So it's similar to a pipeline. Leads object has its own pipeline, similar to a deal pipeline. There's four default lead stages. That's new, attempted, connected, and then lastly, qualified or disqualified, right? So attempted is basically when a lead moves into the stage whenever any contact has been attempted with this lead. So if you try to call them, if you've tried to send them an email, and it won't be a connected outcome, right? The lead will move to a connected outcome as soon as they've replied to an email of yours, or they've used your meeting link and booked a meeting, or if you have a connected call and a call with the outcome that is connected. Then a qualified lead, this is a manual process. You can also automate that. I'll get to that in a second. But basically, you can, in this stage, you manually set the lead to be qualified. And this is also where you can set up the leads object in such a way to mandate that you have to create a deal outside of this view. And then disqualified, similar to closed lasting, is in a deals pipeline, is just disqualified. And you can also have it mandatory to have a disqualification reason. You can also go ahead and customize this as much as you want. You can create new stages, you can create workflows, you can rename ones, turn off automatic deal creation if you want to, or turn off disqualification requirements. So there's a lot of customization that you can do here as well. It all depends on your own sales process at the end of the day.
Okay, no, that's really helpful to know. So far what we've seen is we've got a consolidated view, we have these lead stages, and then we have some automation. So let's go ahead, and I know you have these things to take a look at, Tion. So is there any way we can jump in and have a quick look at what that consolidated view looks like, what the lead stages look like, and what these automations are? I know you're going to talk about the automations a little bit and what's available within the new workspace, but I think it helped to bring it together if we can take a look at kind of what that looks like in HubSpot.
Yeah, I'll go straight to lead settings, right? So if I'm in the prospecting workspace, we spoke earlier about the consolidated view of your leads. It's basically over here. You'll see you can edit columns and add different areas. I'll touch on that in a second as well. Add different column options, such as, in this case, a buyer role, which is quite important, which you can add to further define a person of interest in decision-making, or the associated deals or any stuff further like that. If I then go to settings, right, and I want to set up the leads object, you'll see that with the setup, we can create a leads object we can have leads populate by association with a lifecycle stage. So if your contact, in this case, is a sales qualified lead, it automatically creates a leads object for it. We could do this vice versa as well. And you can decide if you want it for contacts or companies as well. Here's the lead stages, right? We'll have a look over there. So the first is new. Leads are moved into this stage based on the life cycle, as I mentioned in the past. And the second one, attempting, leads are moved into this stage based on when a user sends an email or calls a lead. And then connected, they're moved when you reply to an email, logs a connected call, or logs a completed meeting outcome. Apologies, in the past, I just said a meeting link, but it's when you complete a meeting outcome there. And then you can see you can customize these how you want to, with require deal to be created outside the qualified stage and the disqualification reason. And yeah, similar to a deal pipeline, you can go and add different stages as well. You can add more automation. I'll show you in a demonstration at the end. But I think that basically covers it. Mandy, do you have another question on this?
Yeah, well, something I'm noticing here, just it's really interesting, again, like when we talk about the nuances, and I love to see that more people are more excited than we don't have anyone who's less excited about the leads, guys. So good job so far. We have some people on the fence, but that's all right. But it's like we have almost like parent categories and then child categories here, right? Because we have not started, and we can move through multiple stages, right? So when we think about this, what I think is very fun is that this allows you to be as nuanced as you want to be, right? So if there are 2 or 3 stages to qualification, you can run your leads through all of those, because then you can measure where you're having the fall off, how long it's taking to get through one or the other, right? The same thing that we're doing with our deal pipelines when we're measuring our progression of opportunities. So I just think that that's really good. And it's good to see what it looks like in the setup and some of the things that we need to think about, and the fact that, you know, some of these things are moving through automatically. And just so y'all know, HubSpot is updating this stuff fast. Like when this was turned on and we were in the private beta for this back before inbound, so like in August of 2023, Like there wasn't a way to toggle off that you require a deal to be created at qualified. That was just happening automatically. So we had to use workflows to work around that. So even in this short, less than 6-month time frame, there's already been a lot of progression made on elevating this product. So I'm just really excited to see where it goes. So, all right, let's go to the very next thing, and then we're going to jump into the demo. And I know you've got some stuff to walk through, Tian. So let's be really quick here on this next slide, because I want to make sure that you have time and that we have time to answer some questions. So let's go ahead and jump over to the next slide. And okay, so just some things with mapping. We're going to go through to how to map this stuff really quickly. So I'm just going to call this out really quick because I want to be able to jump to the next slide very fast. So we do have a handout for you. So if you want to know, those of you who have used the Salesforce lead object, and those of you who have used the, who are looking at using the HubSpot lead object, we have a downloadable for you that compares HubSpot versus Salesforce lead objects so you can understand this. We won't go through all of that right now, but just some things that, number one, there's built-in automation. You want to know what that is, right? So before we move into this demo, let's talk about some things to remember. We want to know what that built-in automation is. We want to know what our stages in our pipeline are. And then one thing we want to call out here to just keep an eye on. If you are using the Salesforce HubSpot integration, all right, let's say you're doing deals and opportunities, like your AEs are in Salesforce, but marketing and prospecting are in HubSpot, just really keep an eye on what can happen when you are syncing Salesforce and HubSpot as far as leads, okay? Like Tian and Stefan already mentioned, this is not a like for like. So you really want to make sure that you are mindful about that Salesforce integration. Our team would happily talk to you about that. Send us your questions. We're happy to help there, okay? But when we're working with our leads, again, we just want to make sure that just like our deal pipelines, we have really solid processes, because you don't want to end up with a whole bunch of contacts or companies that have leads associated with them that are stuck in pipeline stages and nobody's working them. Otherwise, the overall process and your overall reporting, just like with the deal pipeline or any other part of your CRM, isn't going to be super useful. So those are some things you want to consider. Build a process around this. If you're using leads in another system and you're going to move to HubSpot, adjust your process. If you haven't really done prospecting and lead tracking in an intentional way before, then build a process out before you get started. And this is where, Tian, if you can go to the next slide, now we're going to jump into this a little bit more. And Tian is going to go ahead and do a demo of what it looks like to plan this process and how you're going to translate that into HubSpot. But first, we're just going to talk about really quick, what you can add on to this process before we jump into building. And then we're going to jump into the building. So it looks like here, buying roles and outreach activities. So these aren't new to the lead object of the prospecting workspace. But Tian, it sounds like these are things that people can use to elevate and enhance what they're doing with the lead object in the prospecting workspace. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I showed earlier the columns right over there. So the one example I used was the buying role, but something you can consider adding different features, like for instance, associated deals, anything like that, just to extend the view of your leads and give you even more consolidated view and summarize everything together, basically. One nice addition to this leads object outreach activity, which basically is a count of every single activity from your sales rep to a specific lead. You'll see in a second there, I have 2 leads in my demo, and the one has 2 and the other one is 0 because we haven't started with that lead at all. So yes, in that column view, in the leads object, we can go ahead and add a few different sort of like properties to the leads to just enhance that view. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and hop to the next slide then. And we have another poll for you real quick. So we want to know if you clearly have your sales funnel, including your lead process. Do you currently have this clearly mapped out? And like this here, look at this beautiful Lucid chart that shows us how our overall process works, right? And so now that we've done that, Tian, I believe we're ready, right? We've taken a look at what is the prospecting workspace, what's the lead object, what are all the things we need to think about before we turn the lead object on? What are some of the features and things we can do with the lead object that could really enhance the way that our reps are working and the data that we're able to collect to understand where we can make small changes to have a big impact on our sales, on our revenue, all of that fun stuff. So now it sounds like looks like it's time for you to jump in and show us how all of these things work, from mapping something out all the way to building it in HubSpot?
Yeah, I will go ahead and show you an example of a case study that I've come up with, right? So at Digital Reach, as you mentioned, Mandy, we like to map things out. What I've done here is I've actually added additional features to what you can use with the traditional leads object. So you'll see, as I showed in that previous map, we have the normal 5 stages or 4 stages of a leads object. But in this case, I have set it up in such a way that as soon as a contact becomes a sales qualified lead, a leads object is created. But we can go ahead and extend it even more to make a even more seamless transition between your marketing and sales. So for instance, I have this extensive lead scoring mapping over here with the demographic and behavioral score, right? After a certain score has been reached in your CRM for contact, we might then send them a marketing email with a specific ebook, right? That goes ahead and advertises one of your products, right? And then as soon as they download that ebook, they go ahead and be signaled as an SQL. And it doesn't necessarily only have to be like that. You can have this ebook on your website, for instance, and if you download that, then you automatically become an SQL in this CRM, right? So then the whole point of this case study is to have essentially zero touch for the first until you've connected to a contact or a lead in this case, right? So the example I used is in this case, right? When I was a student, I really liked white papers, right? And a lot of the times that would be I would not be the target market really for the company if I go and downloaded a white paper off your website. So then you would like to filter me out. So for instance, if in this case, I download that ebook, it goes straight into new. We've set then up a workflow, which I'll jump into a second, that goes and enrolls this lead straight into a sequence. So let's have a look over here. Right, this lead is any of new. It sends them it enrolls them straight into that work into that sequence. That sequence then sends them an email, and then we automatically get sent to connected. The sales rep still hasn't touched anything. This is all happening in the background. If it's not connected, it's just going to be attempted, right, until there is any connection. So then, of course, you have a sequence with a few steps. So for instance, this is in 5 business days, another email is sent, and then 5 more, there's a second email. Obviously, this can be customized as much as you want to. And then when Tian, who's downloaded the white book and not interested in the product, hasn't responded in 10 days, we know he's not interested, and he gets disqualified and sent into the disqualified stage, right? So that actually, Mandy, we mentioned earlier this hot, warm, and cold property. It's a nice way to segment your leads. For instance, this is a way I did it, and it works quite well with this 10 business days, right? So I've set up and created this workflow that if you have a lead that has been a lead for less than 10 days, or there's been activity for within 10 days, then it will be hot. Then between 10 and 20, it's warm. And then more than 20, it's cold. Then we wait 10 more days, and then Tiana is disqualified because he didn't really show interest in our product.
Yeah. And that could like interact with marketing too, right? Like we market to our hot leads differently than our cold leads. I love it. All this works together. Okay, exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then basically, as soon as it's connected, I then have another workflow that enrolls this contact into a task, and then a task is created for this rep to go and set up a meeting or send an email and reach out to that person. So then how this system works is it essentially filters out any unwanted downloads or any unwanted prospects in your leads tool up until that there's someone that contacts you back on, because you've enrolled them into sequences. It seems that you've sent them emails. In the meantime, you've set up the background, and it's been customized using standard HubSpot sequences. So that's another nice way how this tool can work well. It can integrate within your calling, within your sequencing, within various different ways. We also get leads-based workflows as well that you can use to customize your whole outreach and your whole qualification process, basically. So I'm quickly going to run you through this little So I have the map. I'll go into HubSpot now and show you, right? So I have myself 3 times. And you'll see over here, we mentioned earlier, besides the actual consolidated view in the prospecting workspace, you also have leads that are associated in the right-hand side of a contact view. Over here is new. So as soon as this lead has been created new in the system, right, an email is sent. So then after that, it will be moved, that would move straight to attempted. If Tian has then responded, it will move straight to connected. And then if you go look into my prospecting workspace, bringing it all back together, I still have to get back to Tian because I have a task that is overdue for 2 days, and it is for Tian. And then I would set up a meeting with him, and then if he's interested, we would go and create a deal as soon as I move that into qualified stage. So that's just a quick little summary. We can customize this a lot. This is just the one use case I liked, and I'm using a similar system with a client of mine where we automate everything and just use it as an additional step to basically simplify opportunity qualification. As I showed you earlier, you can set it up with any life cycle stage, and you can use it pretty much anywhere where you have a difficult in defining between 2 stages. I really think the leads object can help you quite a bit there. And as a bonus, if you have something like Slack integrated, you can also then get these tasks then straight to your Slack workspace, and then you can go ahead and get notified there and go straight in, and hopefully not get a 7 days outdated task. Yeah, that's a quick summary or demonstration. As I said, this is just a silly little example. We can go in and automate this much more. We can add in different features, use way more workflows. It all depends on how your sales process works.
Super awesome, Tian. Thank you for going through that. There is so much, there is so much that you can do with these lead objects, and just this view. If you could, when you look at this, right, like you can interact with the tasks, you can look at everything in the record, you can see, what's been happening, lead status, all of that. So it's just really great to consolidate this more than how it was with the previous task player. I really like that. So we had a question earlier, and then y'all, we got 5 minutes left. So please go ahead and drop the questions that you have in there, and we'll go ahead and mark them and get those questions more prominently displayed. But Ethan had a question, right? So he said, if we don't want our third-party booking tool, Chili Piper, to create duplicate meetings, right, because it's also connected to Google, we need to disconnect the Google Calendar sync. Okay. Other than the schedule section of the prospecting space, is there anything that they might be missing out on as far as the features by not having the Google Calendar sync on? So Tian, Stepan, anything, off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything else you'd be missing out on, because I know that Chili Piper logs meetings with outcomes. And so as long as we have the meeting logged and the outcomes, that's going to allow us to drive the rest of that process forward. But can either of you think of anything else that's being missed by having, this, the Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar, whatever you have, by having that sync off?
No, I think you've hit it spot on. I can't think of anything else. Stepan?
Okay.
I think the only thing that they could miss, but we need to check that, is the scheduling tab on the leads object.
Yeah, that's it.
If that's not connected, so probably that can be missed. But I would also choose that if you use that, you can probably push a URL from Chili Piper or some schedule feature directly to a dashboard, and then maybe you can use that dashboard to give your reps more data and more what's happening here today. Yeah.
And what I'd be more curious about, and maybe not something unless everyone else is interested in this too, Ethan, would be to take a look at, and we could chat about this separately, why you're not using, I know that Chili Piper, HubSpot has made a lot of updates to the meeting features, and Karen Sinet on our team has a ton of videos about that stuff. But, you can book on behalf of others now. You can have conditional meeting links that based on what someone fills out in the form, you drive who that meeting goes to. So maybe something to talk about, and you could share here, Ethan. We can invite you on stage, whatever suits you. But maybe moving back into the HubSpot booking, if, there's not anything you'd be missing out on from Chili Piper, might be a way to do that as well, right? Because then they will be able to see their schedules. And I do think that it is very convenient. And yes, what we can do, what we have for it. We don't have any other questions in here, Ethan. So let's go ahead and we'll invite you on stage. And then one other thing let me go ahead and do this. I got to go back up to your question to do this. All right. 1 second. And just let me invite you, or one of y'all might have to actually invite him on stage. Sorry about that, y'all. Let me go ahead and do this. I think that, Stepan or Tian, you'll need to hover. And here we go. Just kidding. I figured it out. I just invited you on stage, Ethan. So again, if you want your camera on, have it on. If not, have it off. But just warning, I think it defaults to it being on. So hopefully we see you on stage here in just a second. We have invited you. There you go. And Tian, Ethan asked, and I'm sure other people would like to know as well. Number one, are we sharing the recording? Yes, that'll get emailed out to you. And it sounds like some folks, maybe let us know in this chat if you're interested in receiving the Tian's Lucid chart. We can share that with you. And notifications, if you don't use Slack, we can get notifications to you. You can get notifications through either email, the app. So all of that, like browser notifications, you can get all of those. Slack is just what we use in some of our customers. You can also get notifications to Teams. So just wanted to call that out. And so we're going to continue with your question, Ethan, about Chili Piper. But real quick, for those of you who might be wrapping up and having to hop off, if you want to chat more about the lead object, we do have down in the left hand corner. We're happy to have a free consult with you, chat with you about what you're doing now and how it might be helpful. We have a very consultative process, so don't worry if you book a meeting. We're not going to be pressuring you to buy anything. We really want to be helpful. We'd rather build community, because building community builds great businesses. So if you want help on this, please reach out. But Ethan, why do you know all the changes to the HubSpot meeting tool? And are there still any that are missing that keep you with Chili Piper?
Yes. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. We initially moved to HubSpot back in July, and the idea for my team was to move away from Calendly and start using HubSpot meetings. We started doing it for a while, and we realized it didn't really meet our needs. Back then, it was mostly about not being able to create custom reminders. Because
okay.
For prospect, I know that they enable a feature where you can finally do that. I remember booking a meeting for someone else from the contact object, for example, wouldn't send reminders at all. So you can't even fold reminders for that. Things like being able, I remember that at least back then, it wasn't simple, and it still isn't simple, to kind of update working hours for people, and like the flexibility on when we will be able to schedule meetings, with someone. We have some other challenges. I remember with not being able, like it wouldn't respect out of office blocks on there. So we will have our poor reps booked, at all times of the day. What else?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So out of office should work even when booking for others. And same thing with the notifications. But what I'd love to do, Ethan, I know it's 9:00 now, and so I want to respect your time, everyone else's. I also have a meeting. But here's what I'd love to do is, if we can chat about this, like if we can get on and kind of run through the features that aren't working. And that way, if there are things that have gaps, we would love to give that feedback for HubSpot as well, because I know that they definitely want people to be able to replace tools like Chili Piper with their meeting booking tool, and that's really integral to getting the most out of the system, like you mentioned, with your sales team being able to see their schedule. So let's go ahead, and if you don't mind, like either with myself or Tian or Stepan or Karen even, because she is a master of the Sales Hub herself, like run through it and just see where those gaps are at.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for being willing to come on stage. It's really nice to meet you. Good to see your face, and everyone who is still here. Thanks y'all for coming. I hope this was really useful for you. We'll definitely be sending out the recording to everybody. And also we'll be looking at, sending out a survey to get your feedback. We always want to make these better, but thanks y'all for being here. Again, any questions, follow up with us. We're happy to help, and have a wonderful rest of your week and a great holiday weekend ahead. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.